there. I'm sure they've all got strong views, and our young people have got specific questions that they're going to put to them. But we really like you to join in on this. So if you'd like to comment on anything that anyone is saying, if you just raise your hand, we'll make sure we get the microphone to you and get the camera on you as well. Now, I know that's a scary thought, but as you've seen, the impact of a film is just brilliant. And to have a film of tonight's highlights as well will really add to the project that's been going on. So please don't be shy. Cameras don't bite, the lights are a bit scary, I know, but it would be really worth it if we can have a joint conversation between the young people, who are the ones that are going to ask the questions, of course, and also parents, employers, governors, teachers, everyone who's here tonight. So we hope my voice lasts. Sorry it's a little bit croaky this evening. I thought I'd just ask, before we go into the questions from the young people, I'd just like to find out a little bit more about our panel. So I thought it'd be good to ask them what they were doing when they were 15, and what their plans and hopes were for the future. Jane, do you want to start?
Yes, I'm not sure you really want to know what I was doing at 15. I'm a musician at heart, always have been, started to play the piano at 4, and at 15 I played the piano an awful lot, and I guess that was to relieve some of the stress, really. My main concern, as I said to Rachel, was that the Irish farmer's son might notice me and marry me. And perhaps I might end up being a farmer's wife, but that didn't happen. So it became quite clear that I needed a career of some sort. Stop me, because I could waffle on.
We'll move on then, thank you. Ken, what about you, 15?
Well, at 15, I think, frankly, I was pretending to be 18 for most of the time and trying to get myself into various places I shouldn't have been, whilst struggling to achieve the balance that I think has been very eloquently stated by a lot of the students today. For me, it was the balance between sport, social life and school, and to this day I'm not entirely certain which one.
Callum, we know what you're doing at the moment. Any plan? What are your dreams and hopes for the future? Do you have an idea yet?
Okay, so currently I'm taking 12 GCSE subjects, including IT and both Englishes and triple science. My ambitions are to join the Royal Navy, but before that I'd like to go on to college and take some A-levels, so that's where I'll be heading in the future.
Well, good luck with that. Well, David, what about you?
At 15, I was arguing with my parents, who desperately wanted me to stay on at school, and at 15 I knew better, and I didn't want to stay on at school, and I was trying to grow 2 inches so I could join the police cadets. Unfortunately, I didn't grow those 2 inches, so I moved down to Suffolk to live with my grandmother and joined the fire cadets instead. And in 6 months, I shot up those 2 inches.
Oh, well, fire service gained, police lost on that one. Alan, what about you?
I was living in a little village near the coast, so perhaps similar to this area really, but in Yorkshire. Spending a lot of time listening to reggae music and punk music, and being encouraged by my parents to be the first person in our family to go to university, but no clear plans, just enjoy myself and study a little bit.
We must ask, did you have the punk hairdo?
I didn't have mohair jumpers and things like that, but not punk hairstyle.
I was at school in Ipswich, secondary modern school, and secretly wanted to be an actress, but practically speaking wanted to be a nurse. That's another story. So thank you all very much. This is our panel this evening. We're going to go straight on to the first question. Hopefully our question answers are somewhere near the front, and we'll get the microphone to you and get the camera on you. So Chris, I think you're going to ask the first question.
So I'd like to ask the panel how they think that schools should deal with student stress and the effects on their health and well-being.
Right, so student stress, health and well-being. We saw in the film how it really is a bit tough, particularly around exam times. So let's go to Alan, who's going to answer that first for me, I think. None of them know the questions beforehand, by the way. Alan.
Well, clearly we've got to recognise that it is a problem. I think youngsters, I felt, I was going to say carefree when I was 15. I didn't feel I was under anywhere near the pressure that youngsters are nowadays. So we've got to accept that it is there. It's a tough time, and provide the right networks in school. So it's about having a workforce and a caring, understanding environment, and clearly making sure that the links between home, school, college, wherever it is, are well established. But critically, what tonight's about is that we've got to listen to young people and respond and work with them, because it's the only way forward.
Jane, I mean, you're here from the school and the governors. How aware are you as governors about the stress that teenagers are under?
I think as a governing body we are aware of the stress, but I don't think we are as aware as we should be. And this film has really highlighted to me that it is a bigger issue than I think I thought it was. With regard to what I feel schools should do about it, I think there does need to be more, not just in schools, but in our society as a whole, to deal with stress, because stress actually isn't the prerogative of a student. Sadly for you, you won't leave stress behind when you leave the academy. And so I think much more broadly, there needs to be more done in our culture to be coping with stress. And we all cope with stress in different ways, don't we? I think it would be very useful for academies and schools to put in such things as some kind of yoga, meditation. I mean, obviously for me, I am going to say, aren't I, that I think music relieves stress. Does depend a little bit what kind of music. I think the sort of head-banging garage stuff probably doesn't quite qualify on that count.
Or whatever your taste is.
Yes. So, yes, the school needs to be looking at, and the other thing is the school needs to be looking at what works. So perhaps needs to be looking at the evidence that's out there in terms of what works. And let's not spend time putting in initiatives into schools that we think are going to relieve stress that don't work. So let's make the effort to find out what is going to work. One of the best ways, of course, is to listen to students, isn't it? And to ask what they think is going to work and to come up with a plan. And in schools, the plan has to be put in fairly quickly because you've only got 5 years here. So we haven't got time to question for 3 years, consult for 2 years, look for funding for another decade, and then finally slot it in, have we? It's got to be done, and it's got to be done smartly and neatly and quickly.
If it takes that long, those students end up parents themselves by the time it gets sorted out, wouldn't it? And stressed, yes. Ken, can I ask you, because Jane's made the point about, stress in society generally, but it's much tougher if you're 15 and you're trying to juggle, what was it, your good grades, your social life and sleep. That was the 3 things, wasn't it?
I mean, I suppose I disagree that it's much tougher because stress is something you are all going to suffer throughout of your life. It doesn't get any easier when you're competing with hundreds of other people for what seems like a diminishing number of jobs. And within those jobs, you're competing with other people for promotion, for recognition, for more money. Stress doesn't go away, but just maybe people's ability to deal with stress improves over time. Now, I can only talk about what it's like in John Lewis, and as a responsible employer, we provide stress counselling for all of our partners, should they need it. And because we recognise that in doing that, we get a better calibre of partner or employee in the long run, and we retain those people. Now, if you take that analogy back to school, if schools are going to be measured on their performance, of their ability to add value to a pupil's education, then just maybe the beginnings at that point is when we're beginning to teach children about how to deal with stress that is going to be prevalent for the rest of their life.
David, are you going to be one of these people that says, oh, this fuss about stress, we make too much of it? Because that's why I'm sort of wanting to hear a little.
Well, no, I mean, I agree. Stress is with you from the start to the finish of your life. I mean, we've got elections coming up, and I'm stressed out already about them. But no, I think it's very important for people to realise the amount of peer pressure that students are under nowadays, not just from the school itself, but from their parents, and the expectations that kids are beginning to think out there. And I think really there's a lot can be done right from the initial time they come to school with lifestyle training and that sort of thing. Because I know in my previous career, quite often I was in the fire service, and if we had a stressful incident, you watch the guys come back and deal with it in different ways. So one way doesn't suit all, and I think it's to do with the surroundings you're in, the type of counselling and the type of friendships you adopt. So you can cope with stress in your own ways, but yet you should be encouraged to let it come out and speak about it and share it with people, so you can cope with it with your friends, with your parents. You might need some counselling, but we've got to get away from this idea that one size fits all. because it certainly doesn't. And you heard in the film with the young person that was self-harming, that was his way of coping with stress. Other people cope with it far different ways. So you've got to get away from this fact that one size fits all, and you've got to have people that can recognise it and adapt to it. And I think surroundings is a tremendous important thing, because I wouldn't want to sit in this hall during the exam, and it's not changed since my kids and my wife were here. So you've got the thing, and you've really got to adapt. And I don't think we've adapted enough.
Callum, can I come to you? Because I've just made a note of the different things that people have said, and one is it's peer pressure, parents' pressure, never mind the exam pressure. We had a suggestion from Jane about things like meditation and things, and one size not fitting all. From a student's perspective, I mean, what do you think should happen in schools?
Obviously, coming from the generation of which we're questioning, I believe that it's important to act now on stress, because then it will develop people's skills on to how to act stress throughout their lives, like you were saying, through applications and competing on what seems like a diminishing amount of jobs. So if people can start to handle stress now in their school years, it won't just benefit their exams, it will also benefit the rest of their life, which I believe is a strong point which people should consider.
Before we move on to the next question, does anyone want to add anything on this? The pressure that young people are on and what you think that schools could do? Yes, we've got a microphone over here, please. Thank you.
I don't think we should always talk about suffering stress. There is a healthy level of stress which drives us on, and we just have to learn to manage and cope with it. And it won't go away.
That's interesting. There were several people nodding in the audience at that point. So a certain amount of stress is good for us. We agree.
You need stress, don't you, to improve? You've got to be put under pressure. You've got to step out of your comfort zone in life to progress and move on. Fall off the bike, get up, ride it again, hopefully eventually. You've got to suffer failure and you've got to develop resilience.
So we're back to the life skills that came up and were mentioned in the film, weren't we, in the video? So people saying learning life skills and things were an important part of it. Thank you very much, Steve, for your comment.